Hello and welcome to this episode of the Climate Economy. I'm your host Kunal Shankar. Now, in our previous episodes, we explored the growing importance of energy efficiency in addressing India's increasing power demand and its carbon emissions. While much of the focus has been on improving the efficiency of air conditioners, we also need to pay attention to another ubiquitous appliance, the ceiling fan. India is the world's largest consumer of ceiling fans, with millions of fans in operation across households. However, the energy efficiency of these fans remains a huge opportunity for energy savings. According to India's 2019 Cooling Action Plan, if we replace conventional ceiling fans which consume about 70 watts with newer energy efficient models that consume about 50 watts, it could lead to a substantial savings of 10 to 15% by 2027 to 2028. Yet, despite the availability of such technologies, adoption has been slow, with only 3% of households opting for star rated fans. This raises an important question. How can we accelerate this transition and make ceiling fans more energy efficient for everyone? Now, to explore this further, we are joined by Vishal Kapoor, the CEO of Energy Efficiency Services Limited. It's a public sector entity leading India's energy efficiency initiatives across multiple sectors. EESL has pioneered large-scale programs such as promoting LED bulbs and energy efficiency appliances nationwide, driving significant savings in both energy and costs. Mr. Kapoor himself has extensive experience in the energy sector and is instrumental in accelerating the adoption of clean technologies in India. His leadership has helped shape several innovative initiatives aimed at enhancing energy efficiency and promoting sustainable practices on a national scale. As I said, Mr. Kapoor, a couple of episodes back, we spoke about how India's room AC ratings are some of the lowest in the world, and the difference in energy savings and carbon emissions that could be achieved if the ratings were brought on par with global standards. Why has this not happened so far?
Hi Kunal, thank you for having me on your show. Now, energy efficiency per se, whether it is we're talking about cooling or any kind of appliance, has a similar kind of a problem, if I must say. The real problem is the ownership costs. They are not very salient with most of the people. The upfront costs in most of the efficient appliances are high. That is, the cost of acquisition is generally high. But at the same time, the operational costs, they are on the lower side. So, whenever any consumer or me, you or anybody would go in for a purchase of an equipment, the acquisition cost definitely plays on more, because there is a natural human tendency to discount the future by a much bigger margin. So, in terms of the acquisition costs which have to be paid upfront and the OPEX that goes on as a payout at a later stage, I think, and if we discount those costs internally in our human mind, I think that probably creates a big hindrance in adoption of energy efficient appliances. That includes appliances that cool also. Now, the fact remains that it is important for all of us to ensure that the concept of total cost of ownership gets socialized and democratized properly. And that is something that most of the individuals are not able to grasp very properly. And the future benefits that are going to come, it's basically a promise. The only thing is that we need to actually tell people that yes, this is not only merely a promise, but it's also going to be a reality. So that is one of the major hindrances in this. Yeah.
So basically, I mean, the issue that you're referring to really here is price elasticity. But price elasticity at a much more sort of like a macro level, you're sort of pointing out. You said it very succinctly: acquisition cost, apex and opex, and that's interesting because I suppose for any consumer, apex is priority because that's what goes out of his or her pocket right at that moment, as opposed to the sort of a nebulous or further away concept of how much can you save over a period of time, and that indeed is something. It's much more like say a sort of a insurance, isn't it? We decide to pay upfront at a certain point, but we do decide that it might cost a certain amount which we may not be able to say afford. So is there a way to incentivize acquisition cost in such a way that the operational cost is more tangible, is made more tangible to the consumer?
Well, I think it's more of a knowledge dissemination issue. While in B2B spaces and B2B transactions, this is very ubiquitous, as you mentioned, because industries, business establishments, they are able to figure out that yes, if I pay a little bit more today, then probably the operational cost will go down, and for them it's more of a input cost into the business. So it's very easy for them, relatively I would say, easy for them to understand. And then in such cases, in business, energy performance contracting also can come. That okay, you go ahead, do not pay the full cost upfront, defray those costs over a period of time, let's say 2 or 3 years, and the OPEX costs are also added on to that. So ultimately, if an offering of an ESCO model or an energy performance contracting model is offered in B2B space, then it is still much more easy for businesses to take up for that. Not to mean that it doesn't have its own challenges, because the challenges are because there may be a problem of payment security. The money that is being invested by a business for the capex may not come back, and there needs to be proper payment security mechanisms surrounding this whole scheme of business. But when it comes to an individual adoption, this becomes kind of difficult. So it's, I think, more about knowledge dissemination, not only simple knowledge dissemination, but in a particular manner, so that people are able to understand very easily that yes, going for a little bit more money today and save much higher. I'll give you a small example. I mean, if you just going for a simple, humble fan, I mean, the highest energy efficiency rating fans today, I mean, they would cost a little bit more, or maybe let's say about 60% more. But if you see the overall total cost of ownership and the payback time, you will be able to get back the paybacks in about 1.5 years. So that the next 8.5 years that you are using, I mean, assuming that a fan will be there for about 10 years to serve you, I mean, 8.5 years is almost free for you and at a much lower cost of operation. So I think it's more of a case of making people understand using the right means and right messaging. That is actually the issue.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good segue to my next question. You spoke about the ceiling fan. I sort of began the show by asking that question, why is there lower adoption of ceiling fans? There is that the BLDC fan. There are companies that are beginning to produce that. Some people who are not just price conscious, but as you said, factor in energy savings in a longer range tend to buy that. What are the other appliances that you see in India where you could where energy efficiency could be modeled in or factored in from a consumer perspective, from a not just a business to business, but a consumer perspective, final consumer perspective?
Well, I think there are several. Basic. Start with an LED bulb. LED bulbs that were brought in the mainstream in 2015 onwards. Even in those LED bulbs today, the LED bulbs that are sold in the market are 9 watts. But actually, the same amount of luminosity you can get in 6 watts. The 5-star LED bulbs, but they are not mainstream yet. We are trying to push them. But here is another challenge. When we go and buy a bulb in the market, we buy wattage. I mean, because that is what is ingrained into our mind. Earlier, we used to buy a 100-watt bulb. Then we are used to buying a 9-watt bulb. And 6-watt bulbs, if we buy, it appears that we are going to buy a lesser luminosity, but actually we buy something that is not going to be bright enough. It's not going to be bright enough. Exactly what you are saying. So the point is that we have to change the perception that you're not going for buying a bulb. You're going to buy roshni or luminosity. So if you buy luminosity, then in that case, if you buy luminosity in that case, then a 6-watt bulb can give you the same kind of luminosity as a 9-watt bulb. Similarly, I mean, apart from the bulbs, you have fan is of course there. Induction cook stove, that is also 25% more efficient than an equivalent, let's say an LPG. Then we can talk about several other appliances. You mentioned you in your last show you talked about air conditioners. So the air conditioners are again split air conditioners, 5.8 ISER rating air conditioner. Like this is what we have, one of the best in India today, EESL. So these kind of air conditioners can save you around 25% to 40%. Electricity over a conventional 3-star AC that you purchased probably 4-5 years back. So these are various such appliances where, and similarly, I mean, even a motor for that matter. I mean, motor is used mostly industrial for industrial use, but even home use motors are also there for pumping and these kind of applications. So adoption of IE3 motors, which will give you almost around 25% lesser energy consumption. So these are also some of the appliances.
So, let's probably return back to the ceiling fans. Ceiling fans have been highlighted as, the easiest, the most ubiquitous case of energy efficiency, and India has set new standards for the fans. While companies like Atomberg and Superfan, I'm sure you're aware of them, have been around now for some years. That offer this BLDC technology that we just spoke about a little earlier. They're priced meaningfully higher in the market. How successful have they been, considering, as you said, it's not a very expensive product, unlike an air conditioner that would be considered definitely expensive and would have a greater price elasticity. How are these newer technologies and how are these newer companies faring in the market?
Well, I think again, BLDC fans are operating in the range of 28 watts as against the conventional old fans of 75 to 78 watts. So in fact, they give more than 50% of energy savings. But if you see the overall installed base in India, almost around 60 crore fans would be there, out of which around the annual sales is around 4 crores. But we have reasons to believe that the percentage of BLDC fan sales is around 5 to 7%. This is an estimate. This has increased over a period of time, yes, but it is not gaining that kind of attraction as we would have liked them to be. So obviously the same things play out, because fans, the normal conventional fans that are available in the market, they are all around 1,200 rupees range, and BLDC fans will go upwards of 26 or 26,700. So in fact, EESL, apart from other companies, we have also come out with EESL branded fans, which are BLDC and which are 28 watts, and like a lot of them, they are also available on e-commerce platform. So I think again, a fan is something that we assume has a lot of potential in reduction of energy consumption across the country. I mean, today if you replace all the fans with BLDC fans, assuming that every single fan runs around 10 hours a day, I think we will be able to save 5% of the energy consumption of the country. today. Only the fans.
Of all of India needs.
Of all of India's energy needs, approximately 5%. And in fact, even if you see that's a huge number, absolutely. And even translating it evenly, I think even in case of the peak demand of the country, and I'm saying it very responsibly. I mean, this is the amount. I think 5% will be the reduction in the peak demand of the country also, which has a multitude of benefits. Now, this whole thing has multitude of benefits because energy is what you pay, but the country also pays for creating capacity. So 5% of, let's say, about 260, 70 gigawatts of peak demand, if it is saved, then it is likely to save almost around, I would say, creation of almost 10 to 15 big power plants. So
new power plants.
So that is an added spin-off benefit. But yes, as you said, and as I mentioned before as well, the initial costs being on the higher side, I think this is an impediment. It's more of a question of knowledge. But having said that, if some kind of debt instruments come in and the higher cost, if we are able to socialize and democratize the concept of total cost of ownership, and if the only initial cost of procurement is the problem in purchasing, then using suitable debt instruments, I mean, even if a person is able to is requiring, let's say, a fan, a single fan, if you are able to provide debt to him through some mechanisms for a period of, let's say, 2 years, I think it will be definitely a great way forward. The only problem is that credit cards and availability on the online e-commerce platforms, I think they give you 6 to 12 months of credit and on very high interest rates. So there might be a case that we need to, socialize both energy efficiency and better debt instruments, combined through e-commerce platforms, which can kind of mitigate the higher cost of acquisition of BLDC fans.
So, you've spoken about energy efficiency that can be achieved mainly for the ceiling fans, Vishal. I mean, one of the things that you pointed out is nearly a 15 gigawatt savings nationwide that is possible if we attempt to just bring the latest technology, the BLDC technology, as the standard for fans, for ceiling fans or fans. I would ceiling fans in particular. Why has India not been able to standardize this as the mainstay and make the current technology obsolete? And the same question could be asked for a lot of other technologies, which also means room air conditioners, etc.
I think, Kunal, standardization of technology and mandating it across, I think this is not the way I think the India's policy choice has been, because it has several other repercussions. So ultimately, the policy choice that has been taken is that yes, we have set certain defaults so far that through various star ratings, 5-star being the best. But avoided being too paternalistic about it, because the demand is huge in the country, and these are basically voluntary choices being given to consumers that, okay, if you want to purchase, we are trying to reduce the fog. We are telling you that this is an energy efficient appliance. But I think making it mandatory for people to do it, because we have to cater to a 1.5 billion population and across the board, from rich to poor in all sections of society. So I think it is to avoid a policy, a paternalistic way of doing things, while trying to remove the information asymmetry around efficient and inefficient appliances. So I think that is what is the way that is adopted not only by India, but I think by a large number of.
Right. I mean, it also, in other cases, in technologies of other, for instance, I'm just comparing it with something like electric vehicles. There's an immediate sort of financial incentive of not spending as much on petrol, let's say, and of course that savings gets transferred to electricity usage, but that might be far less than what you might pay, and it's already visible, which is an immediate sort of stimulant for people to transfer. But in this case, is there something also that can be done as a prompt for businesses, right? Like, at the end of the day, if the businesses have a better sort of return on investment on the newer technology, they would automatically push that technology more. And also, isn't it a wiser business decision, particularly for energy efficiency cases for electricity appliances? Because India wants to drive its exports, and as a nation that wants to drive that exports in a time where trade is being discussed as the main topic in the news. Trading blocs like the EU have restrictions like the carbon border adjustment mechanism. They are very specific about how much energy is being used in the manufacture of technology, and also at the appliance or the use stage. And it would also have, I would assume, a cascading effect for India, because it's the second largest exporter of ceiling fans after China. Even if it is just 1/3 the size of China, it's still a major consumer durable that India exports.
Well, I think it needs to be seen. It's predominantly a business call, I guess, because the predominant market lies in India, and as you said, we account for almost 13% of the overall fan exports across the world. So while these trading blocks and these mechanisms that are being operated in Europe could be an incentive for the Indian companies to adopt better manufacturing processes which are energy efficient, as well as the products that are energy efficient, I think that will be a kind of a trade-off and a business call that has to be taken, because on one hand there is a huge Indian market as well, and on the other hand there are export opportunities. So I think the businesses will have to take the call, and definitely the European regulations that have kicked in, I think they definitely look at energy efficient appliances both on the product side as well as on the side of that. So definitely they will help. But I think this is more of a business call that they will have to take, because definitely doing one thing is not the only thing. We'll have to look at how we can socialize it in India itself. Even if the acquisition costs are higher, and as I mentioned, that total cost of ownership and amelioratory measures such as providing good amount of financing, let's say for 2 to 3 years, even through e-commerce platforms, if that can also be worked upon, then I think there is a convergence that the Indian offtake also increases, and as well as the external exports also increase. So I think that could be a way forward, but because otherwise, as a normal, it is basically a company's call whether it needs to be export oriented. Because if it is export oriented and it's only doing the business, the BLDC fan market in exports, then probably in the current scenario, it might not be able to do that well unless and until there is a financing mechanism and a knowledge dissemination that is actually combined together with this whole initiative.
And that's all we have on this episode of The Climate Economy. If you liked this video and would like to hear more about how climate change is reshaping our economies, do hit the bell icon on the Hindu's YouTube channel. And do write to us, or better still, send us a video recording of your question, and we'll do our best to get them answered. Bye for now.